This is Richie Ranno of Starz, and you're listening to the Nothing Shocking podcast.
Want to know what's going on in the world of music? Then tune in to the Nothing Shocking podcast, a non-genre based, all ages friendly rock and roll program. Join us weekly for interviews with all your favorite rock stars from the mainstream to the underground. You can find us at nothingshocking.libsyn.com or anywhere you download podcasts.
Welcome to the night. You think you know Night Demon? Then the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast is for you. Step into the darkness as we peel back the curtain to give you an unprecedented, all-access look into the mind and the heart of the demon. We're talking band history, song analysis, studio anecdotes, stories from the road. It's everything a diehard Night Demon fan could want and more. This is the only place to learn the inside scoop, the deep dive trivia, the untold tales from the band members themselves and those closest to the Night Demon story. Need more? The Sacred Night Demon Crypt will be pried open to reveal demo recordings that have never before seen the light of day, all with in-depth commentary by the band and the people who were there for the writing and recording process. This is a gold mine, a treasure trove of all things Night Demon. Head over to nightdemon.net or wherever you listen to podcasts.
We're putting the band back together.
The numbers all go to 11.
I'm talking about bands that rock. Led Zeppelin. What about Sabbath? AC/DC. Motorhead.
Does that mean it's louder? Isn't it any louder?
Well, it's one louder, isn't it?
We're not worthy. We're not worthy.
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
I get up off the ground and raise my head. Days like this, think I should be dead. One for Satan, two for me. Let's cheat the devil, it's fun, don't you agree?
Welcome to the Nothing Shocking podcast. I'm your co-host Jeff Untied, and with me in Dog Bowl Studios is
Coach Nez.
You can find the Nothing Shocking podcast on Libsyn or any podcatchers. Like our Facebook page or follow us on Twitter at NoShockPod.
You can also find the Nothing Shocking podcast on Rock Rage Radio every Sunday morning at 7 a.m. Central Time. Our sponsor is Ragged Records, located in downtown Rock Island, Illinois, and downtown Davenport, Iowa. We would like to thank the Hong Kong Sleepover for allowing us to use their music for our intro and bumper ending. Tonight's guest is
Richie Ranno of Starz.
Yeah, and he's promoting a Renaissance Records release of Starz live at the Agora. It was released in, I believe, 2020 or 2021? 2020. Close to 2021. Anyway, great guest, great interview. Fantastic. Hey, let's not waste any more time. Let's get to it.
All right, good night.
Good night. Richie, welcome to the Nothing Shocking podcast. I'd like to introduce you my co-host, Jeff Untied.
Richie, this is going to be fun to talk to you tonight.
Hi, Jeff. You too.
All right, so you've been expressing to us here before the interview started that you've played in the Quad Cities numerous times. Do you have a certain story about a certain show that you played here that's quite memorable?
I have many stories, but I'm this is shocking, even though it's nothing shocking, that you're from the Quad Cities.
Oh,
I didn't know that.
Well, so there you go. But you know, in 2021, Renaissance Records released Starz live at the Agora. This particular show is the last of the regular original lineup of the band. Can you talk a little bit more about the remastered version of this release?
Yeah, so that show was in August, I believe, of 1978. And the truth is, this is going to be shocking, even though we're not supposed to do that, I know. So what happened was the tape's been sitting around forever, and we put it out on like double CD because it was kind of long and didn't really, no fanfare. We just put it on the website, sold a handful of them. And then we got it remastered a few years ago by a friend of ours named Sean Franklin, who's a great mastering engineer, and we edited it a bit to smooth it out. I mean, not the music, but like in between the songs, actually. Mm-hmm. And so that gig, we were done with our tour. We were home, and we decided that we were going to fire Peter Sweeble for many, many reasons. Too shocking to tell today. Yeah. Just to run its course with Peter, unfortunately. He was a great guy and a great talent, but it's regrettable that it had to happen, but it did. And so we were just about to do that, and our manager said, WMMS wants you to play their 10th anniversary bash there at the Agora. And we said, no, our tour is over. We're done. We have some changes to make. And they said, no, you have to do it. So we said, okay. So we didn't tell Peter. We felt bad. We went and did the gig. And the gig was great. I mean, it sounded great. And I know we all thought maybe we shouldn't do this, but we made up our minds. And then, of course, the gig was great. It was a lot of fun. Bill, but I can't remember who they were. We were the headliner, I guess, and they broadcast it. So this is the radio broadcast. It's a great quality recording. It's not remixed. It's just remastered, and it sounds great. And it's on CD, and Renaissance put it out on yellow vinyl and also on black vinyl.
Oh, fantastic!
Where can
And then to shock you even more, a few days later, a week later, when we decided to have the meeting, Doobie and myself and Michael spoke to each other and said, we have to let Brendan go. He's so unhappy playing with us right now. And he really was. He just didn't want to do it with us anymore. He didn't want to play rock music. He was just in a different place for some reason. We were very close friends and everything. So we decided to make a major change, a shocking change, as it would be. And we got rid of both. We changed both guys around,
Oh, very good.
Yeah. I was just going to ask you, does Starz still have a website, or where can fans go to get your album?
Oh, yeah, StarzCentral.com. And for someone who would be listening to this thing and never heard of Starz, you got to mention that we spell it STARZ, just like the network that stole us from us. You would not believe how many emails and sometimes phone calls I get from morons saying, I can't get reception on such and such a show, or why don't you bring back this show? And at first I was patient about it. Then I would get phone calls and I'd say, are you a fucking moron? Can I curse, by the way?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd say, are you a fucking moron? The person would go, why are you being so rude? I said, you must be a moron. Look at the website and tell me if it has anything to do with TV. And then hang up on it. I just lost my patience after a while.
Oh, yeah.
These idiots.
That's hilarious.
We've heard nothing but great things about these smaller labels that are re-releasing material from heritage acts such as Starz and Kansas and other bands such as that. Can you talk a little bit more about working with Renaissance Records?
Oh, John Edwards is absolutely fantastic. We've become good friends. He's great. He's just a really big fan of music, and he's doing the right thing, and that's what we like about him. And it's just great. I'm just glad it's not, it's not going to make us any kind of real money, but it doesn't really matter. It's more about just putting it out there, and it's in a great package that he put together, and his heart's really in it. He's a really good guy.
Oh, so cool. Okay. Yeah. As we speak, there is a production company working on the Starz rockumentary. Can you talk a little bit more about this, I guess, the history of Starz in this adventure that you have going on here?
Well, we were just shooting a video with the new lineup. That's not going to be the permanent lineup or anything, but, Doobie and Michael are physically unable right now, but hopefully they're on the right track, and they'll be able to come back maybe next summer. Mm-hmm. So in the meantime, any gigs that we were getting, we had this makeshift lineup, 4 guys, and we decided to go into a video production place where we know the guys really well. They're great musicians. Remember the group Lux, Luxx?
Yes.
It's the drummer from Lux. He's also the first drummer in my band, Richie Ranno of Starz, my trio. Mm-hmm. So, and he has a beautiful facility and does great work. And so we were talking. So we said, let's go in and do a video. So we just want to shoot a video. And so we did an actual concert, and it was fantastic. We brought people into the place, and oh God, it was a great night. And the lineup was really great. The people we have, the drummer was just really worked his ass off to play as much like Doobie as he could. It's not an easy task. Doobie is a very unorthodox, incredible drummer, creative, very creative. And Scott Dubois, he did the job really great. And then Jason Colombini is a young kid. He just turned, let's see, he was still 19, and he turned 20 right after the gigs that we did. And I taught him how to play when he was about 10 or 11. I started teaching him a little bit, not for real long, because he's just great. He just flew with it once I started teaching him. And I've known him since the day he's born, because his mother and father are good friends of mine. And he just fit in perfectly. And we did these gigs. And so we did this video. And in talking to Dave Silver, who's the drummer and owner of this place, he said, let's not just do this video. Let's do a rockumentary. We need to do this. So it's going to really be like an in-depth kind of a thing. And there's really not much to say because we haven't done more than shoot that video. We're going to wait till we're probably going to wait another month before we start. We've got a great idea for who's going to be the narrator. He's going to be someone very well known and is a big fan of the band. I don't want to say anything because we haven't asked him yet, but he's a big fan of the band, and I know he'll do it. I'm sure he'll do it. I've been friends with him for over 40 years.
Oh, fantastic!
And it's going to be a really cool thing when you find out who it is. And we're going to try and get interviews with short interviews with so many people who say that Starz had such a major influence on them, and just talk about everything,
Oh, fantastic. We've talked to many artists that have got themselves involved with a documentary of themselves, and they've voiced on different opinions of how difficult it was to do it the right way, or they get involved with a production company and so many important things were bypassed, and it's like what's important, what's not important. As you're collecting the history of Starz to put this together on a documentary, I guess how overwhelming has it been for you to get all this information put together and do it the right way?
We haven't even gotten to that point yet. So I'm at the thought stage, taking notes and talking to my buddy Dave, and it is overwhelming, I will tell you. So that's one of the reasons why we wanted to wait till after the holidays, because there's so many things going on, and now this stupid pandemic is gearing back up. But that just means we might have more time on our hands, actually, as it were, because I know I'm going to have less gigs. I play with a couple of different bands and do a lot of solo work, but instead of 15 to 20 gigs a month, I think I'm going to be down to about 4 or 5.
Gotcha.
So that will actually give me more time and less money. And but I have a lot of it in my mind about who needs to be in it. That's part of the story, is who needs to be videoed. And unfortunately, there's a number of people who have passed on and can't be in it. But
sure.
We'll talk about them and their contributions, or in some cases, destruction of the
band. Back in the day, did you think it was important to keep concert posters or anything like that? Do you have a collection of items like that?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Back in the day, did you think it was important to keep concert posters or flyers? Did you keep some of that stuff?
Funny thing is, I started collecting one of everything without thinking about it and sticking it in a closet or something. I don't remember where I was sticking it. And then as stuff came in, maybe into a year into the band, people would say, like Brendan would say, "Hey, look, I got this. I don't really want it, but I shouldn't throw it away." And somebody said, "Richie's saving everything." I said, "Well, okay." And then, so everything that came in went to me. And hopefully I will be able to go through all this crap that I've saved. It's not really crap, I shouldn't call it that, but and that's going to be a big part of it too. The fact that everybody was really cool about it. I wasn't really volunteering to do that, by the way. But, I am a collector. I collected baseball cards like a maniac when I was a kid. I've always collected things. I started collecting guitar picks by famous people. I would say that I'm the first person to ever do that, because the first people to have those guitar picks were B.B. King, Ted Nugent, and Kiss.
Oh, wow.
And by bizarre coincidence, I was managed by the same people that managed B.B. King when I was in a group called Stories. And B.B. handed me a couple of his picks with his name on it. I thought, wow, I've never seen anything like that before. And I put him in a container, like a little mug, actually. And then with Stories, we were on the road with Ted Nugent, and he had some picks and gave them to me. And I thought, wow. And that was only two people. And then I was also friends with Kiss, because Stories had the same producers as Kiss, Kerner and Wise, Kenny Kerner, Richie Wise. So they gave me picks. And those were the only three groups in 1973-74 who had their names on it. Those were the only three artists. And then it kind of took off after that, and I just collected picks, and it meant a lot to me. I just, being a guitar player, I liked it. I collected satin backstage passes also, beginning when they first started. So I've always been a collector, and so it worked out well. Certainly wouldn't complain about having all this crazy stuff.
That's awesome.
Coming back to the documentary, I know you said that this is very preliminary right now, but as you can kind of see, down the road here in the future, idealistically, when would you like to have this thing ready for the masses so people can start watching this?
So here's the actual plan. The plan is to do about a 15-minute trailer type thing, where we just, we get some of these people involved, we do some stuff, and just do 15 minutes. And then the 15-minute trailer, it's not really a trailer, it's a promo thing that the company would like to send and present to a number of these different like Netflix type things. There's a million of them now,
Right.
And try and get financial backing, because what we really want to do is going to cost us some money. To go to people's houses around the country with a camera crew, that kind of thing. So that's really the objective at this point, is to just come up with that 15 minutes worth of stuff, highlight type stuff. You follow me on that?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's the plan.
Okay, very good.
Well, earlier you alluded to your Richie Ranno All Stars and playing in a couple bands. What bands are you playing in right now?
Oh, well, I played with that. That's a trio. George, who's been the bass player in Starz for the last, he's been with Starz since we reunited in 2003. He's the bass player. He was the bass player in the All Stars first. And so that's a trio. Billy Orico is currently playing drums with us from Angel. I'm not supposed to say that, but I'm saying it anyway. It's shocking, I know.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So that trio's fun. And I also I play in a Woodstock tribute band called Back to the Garden 1969.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's a 7-piece group, and we do all the, 2 to 3 songs of each of the major artists that played Woodstock. It's a lot of fun.
Oh, so cool.
Yeah.
I get to do Hendrix, who's my, certainly one of my idols.
Nice. It wouldn't behoove us if we did not discuss the 1976 debut album. Many artists have spoke candidly about the influence of that album. Can you talk a little bit more about the lasting influence that album has had on artists from all the way from the 80s all the way up until now? Okay. And what was the last part? It's an album that has been influential on many rock and roll, hard rock, and heavy metal musicians. I've just heard so many artists that have garnering, hey, this was a huge influence in my musical career. Can you kind of touch upon that album and the creative process of that album?
Well, we had a little some time to prepare for it, because we really put the group together. The group evolved. Technically, it evolved from the Looking Glass, so completely lightweight pop group, to the Fallen Angels, who were slightly more rock, well, definitely more rock, to Starz. Mm-hmm. And when we started Starz, it was basically September, October of 1975. And Sean Delaney had heard the band. Sean is a legendary guy who did quite a bit with Kiss, and he had run into these guys and thought they were great. And of course, he was working with Aucoin Management.
Mm-hmm.
Kiss, it was called Rocksteady Management at that time, who had Kiss. So he said, you guys should be more of a rock group. So they started trying to be a little more rock and stuff, but they had a keyboard player. And he said, you need a guitar player, another guitar player. You need somebody who's a real rock guitar player. So they put an ad out in a newspaper, actually the Village Voice. Rocksteady Management rock group needs a guitar player. And my former guitar roadie from Stories knew that I was good friends with them and knew that I had spoken to them about putting a group together for Rocksteady, but I never really got it together. So he said, call the number and audition. So I said, okay. And I won't get into details about the audition because it was really crazy. But obviously I got the gig. And Sean would come to rehearsals every day with us and say, so write some rock songs, guys. And so for me, it was right up my alley. A number of the songs that you'll hear on Starz albums, I had written a chunk of those songs between 1970 and 73 when I was with a trio from Madison, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And so I was just going ahead. I mean, we were writing them together, but a lot of the songs started from my crazy little riffs and my little ideas that I either came up with right on the spot or had already in my mind. And not to suggest that I wrote everything. Like Tear It Down was written by Peter Sweevil completely, lyrics and everything. Other than that section that goes, Atlanta, that cool guitar thing. Brendan and I put that together, as I remember. And so we started putting these songs together. We got rid of the keyboard player shortly thereafter because he did not fit in. He was a honky-tonk keyboard player, He was very good. I mean, he really was. That he's the original member of the Looking Glass. But once the music went that direction, there was nothing for that kind of playing. And he hates us to this day, by the way. I don't know what to say. I heard he's writing his memoirs. I can't wait to hear what he has to say about us. It was unfortunate because when we agreed to get rid of him, we said, okay, rehearsal today at the studio. And we all went there. The four of us went there. And the keyboard player didn't show up. And then Bill Aucoin's right-hand man at the time was our really good friend, Alan Miller, who also unfortunately passed away. And he was great. And he walked into the studio and he goes, well, guys, you don't have to tell Larry anything. We said, what do you mean? He said, I took him out for coffee and I explained it to him. We said, oh, man, why did you do that? You make us look stupid. He said, no, I was saving you. I said, no, you weren't saving us. We were saying that we feel bad. We wanted to tell him face to face, and explain it to him. Well, that was that. And then about 20 minutes later, Larry's wife walked into the studio. And she pointed at each one of us and said, friends of mine. And she went completely berserk on us, and we didn't say a word. What can we say, And, so it was unfortunate. And how many years is that? Oh, my God. It's like he still hates us. No, anyway.
We're looking about, 47 years later?
Yeah. Yeah. Listen, we felt bad about it, but, it doesn't matter. That's the way he sees it, and that's the way it's going to stay. Yeah. But so then we went out. We did a bunch of gigs. We played with a bunch of people, a bunch of major groups and stuff. Really honed the music, to the crowd. Like, when you see how a crowd is reacting, well, that didn't work. Or this did work, and it helped us out. We got really tight, and we did a demo of some sort. I don't know. I can't remember how this exactly happened, but because I know we did a demo with Jack Douglas. I don't know, but all I know is our manager said, we got this big deal with Capitol, and whoever you guys want to produce, just say the word. And nobody had anything good to say about it, except somebody said George Martin or something. But anyway, I said, Jack Douglas, has anyone ever heard of him? And he said, no one's ever heard of him. I said, well, he produced Get Your Wings by Aerosmith.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And if you listen to the first Aerosmith album, which some people like, I think it's one of the worst albums ever made, but it sounds like it was recorded 200 leagues below the sea. I think it's horrible. So, and then Get Your Wings came out. It was one of my favorite albums. So I looked to see who the producer was. I said, this guy's a genius. because that first album sucked.
Yeah.
So that's one of my favorite albums of all time, Get Your Wings. So I said, Jack Douglas, and Bill O'Coin found him, and he came to one of our gigs. He said, yeah, you guys are great, I'll do it. And he had Jay Messina as his engineer, great engineer. And they had the record plant that they worked out at one of the greatest studios in the history of rock music. And we were ready, I mean, a lot of that album is live.
Oh, it's a fantastic album.
Yes, thank you.
He was on there for the first two albums, and then you guys produced your own on Attention Choppers, and then you had Jack Richardson on Coliseum Rock. Can you compare and contrast a little bit doing it yourself versus those two guys?
Well, we weren't ready to do it ourselves, and we didn't want to do it ourselves. Let me just say that. And our manager made some very poor decisions against our better judgment. What happened was Jack was tied up a bit with Aerosmith, and our manager said, you have to go into the recording studio next week. And we said, well, okay. He said, Jack can't do it. You got to do it yourselves. And I said, okay. And so Jack and I were very close because Jack knew that I brought him in, and we just got along really great. So I called Jack up, and he said, no, I can do it. Just give me a little time. I got to finish this album. So I said this to Bill O'Coin, and Bill O'Coin said, no, they don't pay us until you start. We got to start now. So we went into a crappy recording studio with mediocre engineer, producing it ourselves. And until like the last month or two, I've never liked that album. But somehow I was listening to it again, and I said, the songs are good. It's just not what I really wanted to do. It's not what I wanted them to sound like. I didn't feel it was right for the band. And that's part of why we made the change we made with the membership. Well, it was more than that, but that had some part to do with it. It was awful. And then fourth album came along, and Jack Richardson had produced that previous group, The Fallen Angels, which I was not in. And he's a great producer. Jack Richardson was great. We had a great time up in Canada at a beautiful studio that Jack had. I thought that album came out fantastic. And to think that we wrote the songs and recorded them all in a really short span of time with two guys, brand new in the band, I look back, I think that's amazing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
At the time of that debut album, it didn't have the sales that would vault you into the stratosphere like it should have. If you look back on the release of that album, and it has the cult following, it has the influence that it does, but it didn't get the sales, the platinum sales that it deserved. What do you think held that album back from going into the next stratosphere?
Oh, an awful record company called Capital Punishment Records. So what happened was when we got signed to that label, Al, what was Al's last name? I can't remember his last name. He was the president of the company. I guess if I look it up, I'll remember. But he was the president of Capitol. It was under him that we got the money, that we got the record deal. 6 months later, when the album came out, there was a whole new regime. Everybody left at the top. It was all new guys. They didn't give a shit. They didn't care about us at all. They spent the money because Bill O'Coin got them to spend money and buy ads and finance our tours and stuff. But they didn't give a shit. And we would go out to L.A. I would talk to the record company guys, and I'd say, "Well, why don't you put another 45 out and actually promote it? Wouldn't that be a good idea?" Oh, well, we can't promote rock groups. We don't promote rock groups. There's no room for rock groups. It's got to be disco. And there's already one rock song in the top 100 right now. I say, what's wrong with you guys, man? Really? And I would talk to them this way. I don't know what was wrong with those guys. I'm not talking about the guys on the street that we would deal with, like the promo guys that you go to each city. They were very nice, but the executives were clueless, and they were all on drugs. Excuse me, they can sue me all they want. They were on drugs. They were out of their minds, coked out of their minds, okay? And so was our manager, and we weren't. I guess we should have done the same thing. Maybe we would have been happier. I don't mind saying the truth. Look, it's 50 years later almost. The truth is they were just out of their minds on drugs. That's all he did was snort coke. I'm sorry, you don't do your best work when you're snorting coke.
Absolutely not.
I'll take that stand, and all the cokeheads can be angry at me now. I don't care. So, yeah, that's what happened. Drugs really screwed our career up, and we weren't the ones doing them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeff, you got the next one?
Yeah, I mean, I listen. I listened to Starz, the first album today. Hadn't listened to it in a really long time, and I thought it was timeless. What are the chances that there's a lot of heritage acts that come back and with different labels, and they record new albums now with modern technology and all that stuff. Is there any thought of trying to do that?
No, not really. No, nobody listens to it. Nobody listens to new albums. Nobody gives a shit.
We do. What about us? We count.
Well, you two guys can finance it, and we'll make 2 CDs, one for each.
No, I get it.
I have one more question for you, and then we'll be done bothering you for the evening. But I wanted to talk a little bit about stories. One of your former bandmates, Kenny Aronson, fantastic bass player.
Oh yeah.
This curiosity is that with you two guys in the same band, what made you guys never reunite to do a project or something like that?
You got to ask Kenny that. I've been saying that for years.
Oh, okay.
Kenny's the guy who has all the big time gigs, not me. He never calls me on them. I love Kenny, so don't get me wrong. But that just recently, somebody else asked me, "How come you and Kenny never play together?" I said, "He never asks me." So there you go. I'm going to say, I'm going on record. You can tell Kenny, ask Richie to do a gig. I do it anytime. I did actually try to get Ian to put stories together with at least me and Kenny, just to do 10 gigs or some. Stories was a great band, and I don't know, Ian just never got it together. I feel bad that he didn't. I did a gig at BB King's with the All Stars, and I got Ian to come down and sing 3 songs, including Brother Louie, and the crowd went crazy. It was great. He's still great. But yeah, I don't know. Kenny's great. We did tour together with Derringer and Starz in '76, and Aerosmith is the headliner, of course.
Oh, very cool. The thing that's fascinating about Kenny Aronson to me is that, after Stories, it was Dust and Estes, and it just went on and on and on.
No, those were before Stories.
Oh, I'm sorry, before Stories.
Yeah.
My apologies. But as time has gone on, he's now with the Yardbirds, and he just gets these awesome side gigs to be a studio guy and what have you.
Yeah, and he hasn't asked me to join the Yardbirds. You see what I'm saying?
Totally understand it. But
and the Yardbirds are one of my biggest influences, to be honest with you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We're kind of out of our allotted time, but before we let you go for the evening, is there anything else that we did not cover tonight that you would like to promote or plug?
Yeah, the Quad Cities.
Yeah.
It's still here, barely.
I played the Quad Cities all the time when I was living in Madison with my group Bungi, spelled Bungi.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
We used to play a club in Rock Island, and what are the other cities again?
So you got Moline, Rock Island.
Yeah, Moline. There was a club in Moline, and then in Bettendorf, there was a great club on the water there, and we played 5 nights with Bob Seger at that club.
Oh, wow. So cool. So cool.
Yeah, and we got to be pretty friendly with that group. It was a different lineup than the one that made it big. It wasn't the Silver Bullet Band.
Sure.
It was 1973.
The frustrating thing about, the Quad Cities now is that you just used to have all these great, mid-level, clubs and place venues to go see shows, and they all pretty much have died off now. We're really limited to pretty much our Civic Center, the Adler Theater in Davenport, and we have a couple of clubs here that bring some bands in, but it's really
that's a national epidemic.
Yeah.
That's the way it is everywhere. That's the way it is right here in New York City. Well, I'm only a few miles away from New York City, but New York City, which I don't really go to anymore, but in northern New Jersey, it's the same thing. Yeah.
And that's
it's
just
weird.
And that's flabbergasting to me, knowing what we know about the New York rock and roll scene of the 70s and 80s, and even part of the 90s. Obviously, you live in that part of the world over there. What caused the rock scene to die in New York?
I think it's rap music.
That's the best you can do for us. There's got to be something else.
No, it's rap. I'm telling you right now. It's just a whole difference in. It's not just rap. It's a whole difference in today's young people, because old people can't support this. This has got to be music supported by young people. And young people have changed.
Yeah.
And it's just the way life goes. I mean, you can't blame young people for changing. It's going to, the world changes. And I have young people as kids. I have 4 kids, so I see what they do. My older 2 kids were really into rock, but they're like 43 and 40. My younger 2 also are into it, but it's different. It's very different. Yeah. Actually, they love classic rock. I didn't push it on them, believe it or not. I never pushed any music on my kids. They just gravitated to it on their own. But they don't really go see bands or anything. The whole band thing is just gone.
That's such a shame, and it's so frustrating too. To see.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I agree.
We have a small venue here called Rascals Live, and we've had some really top notch acts come in here, and the place they hold 100 people.
Yeah,
and sometimes they're struggling to get 100 people. I mean, Stryper played at that place. I mean, it's bizarre, but anyway,
it is.
Hey, thank you so much. Yeah. This is how it's going to work. We have about 3 episodes ahead of yours, so we're looking about 3 weeks, and this will be out. Jeff, the editing wizard, will have it all taken care of. And as soon as it's ready, we'll send it to you. Sound good?
Yeah, that's great.
All right, man. Yeah. Well, listen, we'll leave you alone.
Yeah, it's been fun.
And we'll be in touch with you in about 3 weeks. Sound good?
All right, guys. Really great. You guys did a great job. Good luck with everything.
Hey, thank you so much. Take care of yourself.
Okay, you too. Thank
good night.
You. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Everybody pulls the plug and says their last goodbyes. Move to the sunshine, fight the grip of nights. If they ever take from you, then